Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Sith Council with me, Kristian Harloff. Thank you for joining us. Now, normally we are live on Wednesday mornings, and I'll still be live tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. with Mike and Steph, but very special guest today, as you see in the headline, or good spoiler by me right in the bottom there. Ladies and gentlemen, I am excited to have my friend on the show, and not even my friend anymore. She's still my friend, Star Wars alum, Star Wars personality. It's crazy and awesome to say. She already was part of the animated series as Bo Katan, but Bo Katan is now live action canon, Mother F's, and here she is, Katee Sackhoff. Hey, Katie, what's going on?
I love the fact that you were like, I'm not friends anymore.
We're not friends.
You're friends.
You're too big for me now. You're too big. It's so funny. Listen, congratulations. I know we've talked a bunch of different times, via whatever it was text and being able to, and I know for you, holding this so close for so long had to be tough, because anytime you're in Star Wars, obviously, and you want to tell people, and your dad being a massive fan, your fiance being a massive Star Wars fan. So how was that process of having to keep this quiet?
I am really bad at this, really bad. And anyone that goes back and watches, there was this moment that you and I came over to Collider.
Yeah.
And I couldn't help myself. I was like staring at your cup because I was like, and it was instinctual. Yep. But if you go back and you watch it, it was like, you totally could have put two and two together, but thank God no one did.
Some people were curious because it was during the break and you came back in and you're like, well, I go, we're on the air. and you're like, bye now. And you did the Homer Simpson step away.
This is the whole thing. I think this is honestly like the reason why when I asked my publicist, I was like, I'm going to do Kristian's show. And they're like, not yet. Right. Because when you're friends with the person that's interviewing you, it's so easy to just completely forget everything, that we're not just sitting in your living room having a conversation, because you knew before everyone else knew, because, it's something that we've talked about before. Like, you're a huge Star Wars fan. And furthermore, you've helped me understand the world so much over the times that we've talked that, it's not a secret you can keep for long from too many people.
I know. And it was for me, I'm just sitting there waiting for it, because same thing. I can't say anything. So I'm like sitting there waiting for it. And anytime, people would, because the rumor started to come out that you were in it before. And people were like, hey, did you know? And I'm like, hey, I'm not saying she told me anything. All I'm saying is watch the show, but it was great to see. And what's even better now is, I don't know, have you ever officially met my 9-year-old? I don't know if you ever have.
No.
She is in love with Bo Katan. I mean, just in love, thinks you are the coolest. And I was like, and now it's like, yeah, well, guess what? One day you're going to be, because my studio is here. Like, one day you're going to be doing your homework and Bo Katan might just be walking by. So shut up, you're lying.
So one of my girlfriends, Bianca Kylik, who's also another actress, we met way back in the day on Halloween Resurrection. Like, she lives down the street. We're good friends. She's got a daughter as well, who's 5 or 6. And she's at the park. And they went to the park. It's during COVID, so everyone tries to keep their distance, but she's at the park and wanting to play, and she's littler than all the kids at the park. And there's like a 9-year-old there who like doesn't want to play with her.
Right.
The only person for her to play with though. And Magnolia like walks over and is like, trying to do the do we play thing. And this little girl is like not paying attention to her at all. And she like, I kid you not, without even hesitating, she goes, yeah, do you like Star Wars? Where I'm basically related to Bo Katan.
Isn't that funny how and that was what I wanted to talk to you about, among a lot of other things. But as I look in the background there and I see 2 iconic now helmets, which it's incredible. And it's funny because, like you said, we would talk Star Wars all the time, and you've been in the Star Wars universe, you've been Bo Katan, but this is different. And what's so different about it is that it's almost you kind of broke a mold, because it's almost like taboo sometimes, and I don't think it's fair, but I think it's taboo sometimes that the voice actor of the character goes on to play the live action character. So was this a thing like right away that you knew was going to happen? When did you first hear that Bo Katan was going to be in Mandalorian?
No, I mean, I didn't really hear it all. I was at Celebration probably like 2 years ago, and Filoni was there, and he was standing there talking with Sam Witwer. And we were just having a conversation as friends. And, at the time it occurred to me that the Mandalorian, Bo Katan's a Mandalorian. I mean, I don't know. The last time we saw her, she was alive. So I basically said that to him, and I was just like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I never dreamed that, it would actually happen, because you're right. It's for whatever reason, the person who plays the voice, or if it goes the other direction as well, there's always this weird thing that the mediums can't be intertwined in some weird way. And it never happens. Paul Bettany, I realized, did it. Robin told me that he did it. So it doesn't happen all the time. And so when I took my meeting with Jon Favreau, it didn't occur to me till I looked around and like saw my face in the photos. Like I was like, wait a second, what's happening?
They were sketching out your face?
I was in the photos, and I was like, what is happening to me? Yeah. And I remember sitting there thinking to myself, it's Jon fucking Favreau. Yeah. Why am I in this room? Because let's be honest, as an actor, I've never been cool enough to sit in a room with Jon Favreau. Like this is not like where like whatever, for whatever reason. And so I'm sitting in this room trying to act like I wasn't the biggest dork in the entire world. And I wanted to fangirl about so many of his projects. I just was like freaking out.
How do you play that? I mean, obviously, do you use some of those acting skills to play it cool in the room? And then what's that meeting like? What are you guys talking about?
Well, what's funny, I mean, you know me, I talk with my hands. It's like the hardest thing for me to not move. And so I was sitting with my legs cross-legged, and my hands were tucked in to my legs, and I was squeezing them as tight as I could. And I don't think I heard half of what he said. I just remember him being like, paraphrasing obviously, but is this something that you would be interested in? Like, I don't want you to do it if you're not interested in it. And I remember thinking, does he honestly think that I'm cool enough to be like, I don't know if I want to do this? Right. Like, yeah.
No thanks, bro. Big swingers too.
I know. And I was like, I'm sorry. And I just pulled my hands out from between my legs and like slammed them on the table. And I was like, are you out of your mind?
Oh, that's awesome.
I want to do this.
And I'm sure that really goes a long way with him, because I think that's why he and Dave Filoni are getting so much love, because you can tell how much they generally like love Star Wars. You can really tell. And that's one of the things that I was excited when I heard you were going to do it, because not only did I think, I mean, I still to this day thought that it's about time that someone put you in one of these IPs, whether it was Star Wars or Marvel or DC. It's about time, because you fit it so well. And I just thought it was so fitting that when you did return to this type of genre, and it is and I know you've done sci-fi obviously since, but this by doing this, streaming and television has changed so much since Battlestar, because Battlestar was ahead of its time. When you look at it, it felt the way that streaming service shows do now, in that each one felt like a big movie. I mean, shit, it launched with a big movie. So,
well, we didn't have good ratings. I think we had like a 0.7 share. That's 700,000 people were watching it when we were airing at the time. Right. That's nothing back then. I mean, so it was like we were sort of competing against shows like The Sopranos on HBO that everyone, was aware. HBO got so much love, and Sci-Fi didn't. So we sort of flew under the radar for quite a while.
Yeah, it was and like you said, those other shows were like water cooler shows, and your show Battlestar kind of caught on because everyone started talking about it through whether it was right around. I remember that I started watching it through. I can't remember. Someone had lent it to me, and that's how I started watching it at first. And then whether it was you buy it on iTunes later on, like it was before even now. Like you're still finding an audience for that show. Now, couple it with the fact that you have the Star Wars on television now, which to the day, I mean, I've been saying this I think Star Wars works better as television than I think it does movies, to be honest with you. And I think that your show now, Mandalorian, proves that.
Well, the pacing, is so much more kind in television because it's conveniently continued, and you don't have to wrap it up in 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And it really allows people. It's one of the things that I loved about Longmire. I mean, people forget that, yes, I did do Battlestar Galactica, but that was 15, 20 years ago. I literally booked Starbuck 20 years ago. So I didn't do sci-fi for 10 years when I did Longmire. And one of the things that I loved about Longmire was that pacing. And I've said this, that it reminds me so much of The Mandalorian, specifically for that reason, is that those old spaghetti Westerns and old Westerns took their time. There wasn't this this pace, this frenetic pace that we have now in viewing that we're so used to. And that's what television fits well for Star Wars, because that's what the originals were like.
Yeah, that's what I love. Yeah, and that's why I love that gallery series when Favreau had mentioned, he said that we're not doing an homage to Star Wars here. We're doing an homage to the stuff that inspired Star Wars. And I was like, that's it.
Right?
That's it.
I think people forget what inspired the original Star Wars. I think that people forget that all the time, and then they just start to try and mimic in many different things. That's why you lose it. Even the Alien series did the same thing.
Yeah.
Forgetting what inspired Alien and Aliens. The two best.
When they gave you because obviously with Star Wars they keep it so close to the vest. You didn't have to audition, right? They just gave it to you because you are Bo Katan.
Yeah, which was great. I mean, I walked out of the room with John, not believing it was going to happen, but it's sort of like, because I didn't know what to think. Like, I've said this before that my career has had a very clear ladder to it. It's I've never skipped a million steps and been like, she's famous. It's like, I really very clearly, and thank God I did. But I climbed a ladder, and I've never booked something where in my mind, except when I was younger, obviously you book things and you're like, why'd they hire me? But I have for a long time haven't booked something that I felt like I stepped up and into something greater than the career that I had already amassed. And this was that moment where I was like, they said it's going to happen, but I still don't believe it. So until we get that phone call, and it was like months later where we didn't hear anything. And I was like, what?
Were you worried that they had changed their minds?
I wasn't necessarily worried that they'd changed their mind, but I was worried that it wouldn't work out timing wise.
Mm-hmm.
I was worried because my other show, Another Life, shoots virtually at the same time. And it's very rare for a television series that owns you to let you out to go do something else that is on paper competition,
right.
Or in the same genre or something. And, the fact that not only did it work out, but that Netflix was brilliant enough to let me go do it at the same time was amazing. So many things had to work out for it to actually work out.
It just shows you. I got to tell you, the people at Netflix, they're making good moves and they're smart. And you know what? But besides it just being a cool move, it's smart for them because, oh yeah, one of our stars for one of our shows is going to work on Star Wars. Yeah, let her go. Let her go, and then she, her name gets bigger. We know how talented she is already. She's going to pop on that show, and then people will come in to watch her on our show. It's just, it makes sense.
It does make sense. It's smart. I've never understood that sort of idea that people hold back. There was this thinking a long time ago that they didn't want the actors on a show to become bigger than the show because then it becomes problems. There's turmoil, actors fight, whatever it is, jealousy, things like that. The more, in my mind, the more of a household name anyone on your show becomes, even if it's the 10th person on the call sheet, it's only going to help the show become bigger.
Absolutely. And that's why and it seems like this is what they do. You give a good contract to your star that, hey, listen, yeah, go do your other shows. We got you for X amount of seasons, so you're still going to do our show, but go do what you have to do, build your name up, get more viewers on our show too. Why not?
Well, and it used to be different too, because it used to be that the norm was 22 episodes. To shoot 22 episodes, it takes 10 months, 9.5 months, 10 months. So it made sense that they wanted to lock you in, because then you only had a month and a half, 2 months to go do something, and it really would be an overlap, and it would really be inconvenient for them. Now, it doesn't make sense to hold actors to these crazy contracts where they can't do anything that's competitive, because we're only working 3 months out of the year. Your show only shoots for 3 months. There are not many people that only work for 3 months out of a year and then cannot go do anything else because it's considered competitive. It's unfair to actors, not necessarily speaking about myself, but I see a lot of younger actors that are held to these contracts. And it's hard because young actors don't make a lot of money. So if they're only working 3 months out of the year, it can be really difficult for them.
Well, I mean, so it was great that they let you do that, because you go on there, you get the script, though. You get the Mandalorian script. Is that what happens? Because, like I said, they probably keep it close, or do you just get the sides? Do you know anything about the plot going into it? And with all of that, do you go back and rewatch some of these Clone Wars episodes and Rebel stuff to know the character a little bit better?
We watched everything. Like, Robin sat me down because we spoke to you about it.
Yeah.
We sat down and watched everything in the place where it should be. And it was one of the most brilliant ways to watch it, because if you do, Clone Wars fits in so perfectly, and it makes the emotional connection to the project so much greater when you can watch them in the order that they're meant to be watched in. So we did that. But no, you don't get you don't really have any idea what's going on. Like, they very clearly and smartly so keep a lot of things to the chest on Mandalorian and over at Disney. It's so smart, because what they're doing is they're allowing you in a world of social media where there are no spoilers. It's like there's spoilers, but what I mean is there are no surprises, because everyone knows everything. But what Disney has been able to do is keep things private and keep things secret, so you can actually have that moment where you go, oh my God. And it makes you feel like a kid again, because you are surprised. And we're so very rarely surprised in television these days, because there's spoilers all over the place.
Yeah. Well, they did it a few times on the show this season. Obviously, the one with you, the way that they revealed you was really good. And I think besides just revealing the fact for Rebels and Clone Wars fans that Bo Katan was coming back, the other thing that they did was they answered a question that everybody was asking in season 1. It's like, why isn't this guy taking his helmet off? We've seen Bo Katan take her helmet off. We've seen somebody, Sabine has taken her helmet off. Like, why isn't he doing it? It's like, oh, they're not being consistent. It's like, take it easy. Let them figure out what they're doing first. And then as we reveal you guys and you say, oh, he's part of that I forget the name of it, sorry, but that the clan that didn't want to take their helmets off, and when you are when
you Child of the Watch.
Yes, the Child of the Watch. Thank you. See, you're schooling me on Star Wars stuff now. How about that?
It's only because I said the line.
I know, but yeah, because he's a Child of the Watch, so that automatically, that is such a thing already that you now are allowed into this lore, and I think it went back to get people to start watch Clone Wars again and learn more about Bo Katan, because they even introduced her in the last season of Clone Wars, not reintroduce her, I should say. But when you, all that stuff and working on that first day, how long did that take you guys to shoot that episode?
Oh my gosh. It takes longer to shoot it, because they do bounce around more over there. And so it took longer. Like, normally we shoot in 11 days. I honestly don't know what it was, to be honest. It's such a blur to me, because I think every day that I showed up to set, I was like,
right. Tell me about the first day. Tell me about the first day on set. That's what I really want to know about, like getting the helmet, doing all that stuff.
So my first day, like when I actually showed up for my hair and makeup test and the whole deal, it was crazy. Like, I got body scanned. I've never done a project where it had enough money to body scan you. Normally I had to do this thing where they put the plaster on you and you lay there for 2 hours and they put the thing on your head and you can't breathe and it's claustrophobic. That's normally what I've done. I walked into this thing, you stand in your bra and underwear on a platform and it goes, boop, and they like, you're done. And I was like, I'm sorry, you're going to make my entire costume like that. I was in and out in seconds. It was crazy. And then I came back and we did a couple fittings of it, but I hadn't really tried everything on yet. It was just like pieces here and there. And then I came in and I was with Filoni, and he like walked around the corner and was like, the fans are gonna freak out. They're gonna freak out because they did such a beautiful job at making her, you knew who it was the second you saw her. Like the second you saw her, if you knew anything about Clone Wars or Rebels, you knew immediately who that was. But they also made it realistic, like they made it fit my body. I mean, I've got hips and I've got shoulders and I've, got breasts and things. So they had to make this suit fit at me and actually be movable, which was great.
Yeah. And then because you were watching that stuff, Clone Wars and Rebels, and watching her progression as a character from like when you first meet her, she's more angrier. And then obviously when she gets older, there's more of the accepting of who she is. And do you take that stuff as an actress? Do you remember like your sister in certain moments in that? Do you like, I'm just curious how that, like how the character is thinking while you're in the moment.
Well, of course you do. I mean, that is one of the things that's so beautiful about playing a character that existed in Clone Wars or Rebels, not even just myself, but have any of the people that, if they show up in Mandalorian at some point, you have source material. You have actual source material where you could go back. Rosario could go back and watch all of that if she wanted to, like the characters, like you can do that. And it's such a fantastic piece of material. And then you can go to Dave, and I did many times to Dave and John, and what should I come into this? What knowledge do I have? Because I questioned all the time because I wanted to make sure that when I looked at Grogu, that it was the right way. And I don't really remember, where they wanted to go with that or what. I have no idea. And this is to be a fly on the wall in their brains because they're both so brilliant. And they'll always come up with something much more interesting than I could. So, but I wanted to make sure that she came with that history because her history is sorted. Yeah. I mean, like if people go back and watch Clone Wars, we can't forget where she started. She's not an angel.
Not at all.
By no means. And, and I wanted those things to be there. I wanted people to go, do we trust this woman at all?
Yeah, she does it a couple times to Din throughout even when he first joins her at the end. She doesn't tell him everything. She's like, yeah, we're doing this and you're going to help us out. And he's like, all right, kind of begrudgingly.
Absolutely. And part of it is that you want to do those kind of things because you want the audience to see something, in any project, not just Star Wars. You want the audience to see your face and see it move and wonder what you're thinking,
Did you do that the moment when at the end of your first episode when you mention Ahsoka Tano and everybody who's watching it again is like, oh shit, my brother's like, oh shit, like that when that happened, when you read it in the script, were you like, oh shit?
I read it in the script and I was like, oh my God, you bitch, you better not say her name wrong. every time I was in the recording booth during Clone Wars or Rebels and I had to say her name, I always said it wrong. No, even if I didn't, it just was something that's not something that rolls off my tongue the right way for some reason. And I had to work really hard. I had to work on Koska as well. Koska. Because they're very specific, like I think that Mercedes actually still calls my character Bo Katan.
Speaking of which, by the way, and as I was mentioning my daughter before, her favorite wrestler is Sasha Banks. So yeah, is that the first time that you met her, and what was that like? And was she? I mean, she seems like she seems pretty awesome, but she also seems like a badass. So
Mercedes is such a beautiful blend of so many qualities that are just phenomenal. She is one of the hardest workers I've ever met in my entire life. She is grateful and she is humble. She's incredibly talented. She's fierce. But she is open to learn, and she knows she's going to be a superstar. She's absolutely amazing. And she is just so physically capable, and she makes it look easy. There are certain things that I can do that I've been trained to do as a fighter, as an actor. But there's someone, when they do it as a living and they're a professional athlete and they're flying around, it's very different than me pretending to do it in a foam pit, like with a bunch of 5-year-olds. You know what I mean? Sure. You know what I mean? Like when they're like, Katee, let the kids go first before you practice your backflips. All right.
You start doing the Macho Man Savage thing off of the jumping gym in the back. But I really, really want to fight with Sasha. Like I want Katee Sackhoff to show up and be her tag team partner for a WWE match. That's what I was going to ask you, because that if we're not in COVID, you probably would have been to a bunch of events already to come see her at some of these things that they're already doing, especially like WrestleMania. That's the fingers crossed that you'd be able to go and check that out. But have you? When was the last time you went to a WWE event?
I've never been to one in my entire life, and it was a Sasha Banks fight.
Oh,
and
really?
It was funny because I went with Brendan Wayne and Lateef and Ryan. So I was with the entire stunt team from the Mandalorian watching Mercedes fight. And she tells me that everybody boos. Because I was like, I'm going to cheer so hard. And she goes, don't you dare. You have to boo. And I was like, okay. All right, well, I'll boo you. It feels weird, but I'll boo. I was booing so hard. I was drinking a beer and screaming at her. But then there was this little girl. She was 8, and she was like, I hate you. And her dad was holding her back. And I was like, what is happening here?
She's very nice, I swear.
I was like, this child is going to kill Sasha Banks.
Yeah, she plays that really well. And I think watching her and the instincts that she has in the ring and the story there, it didn't surprise me that it transferred over so well. Hey, what happened to the dude in the finale? He's not there. What happened to him?
He just wasn't there.
Okay, that's fair.
He just wasn't there. And there's a reason. And it's one of those things where I don't know if that story is something I'm supposed to tell. So he just wasn't there.
Fine. Don't get yourself in trouble.
I say all the time, though, that I've been saying that, men notoriously, and I'm sure you're this way, yes. And everyone listening, if you're a man, you know this. You all have to poop. The moment it's time to leave the house, a man goes, give me a second. And they run because you guys don't like to poop anywhere. But women are like, oh my God, I have to poop. I'm so excited. I'll go anywhere. Right. And they're like, no, just I need to sit at home before we go. And so I just say that he was pooping.
It's become, it's 100%, because to me, it's even when I don't have to, it's just my place of peace. So maybe he just needed a timeout.
Yeah, I don't know. Simon's amazing. I'm so glad that he's there. But at the same time, and seeing 4 women sweep an entire ship by themselves was absolutely amazing. And what I loved about it was very similar to Battlestar in the sense that they never talked about the fact that Starbuck was a woman. It was never like, we're 4 women and looking at hit my boobs. It was never, it was just, these were just the soldiers that were doing it. Right. And it just happened to be 4 women. And it's amazing.
It was, and it wasn't forced, and it was just, you believed every second of it because of the setup. Yeah. And you talk about kicking ass, Ming-Na, by the way, is just
right.
Holy crap. And I mean, she's older than I am, and I hurt my back parallel parking. So,
I know, right? It's so funny though, because so I am the act in that group of 4 women.
Yeah.
I am the girl that punches people in the face and shoots them. That's the characters I've played, right? I'm not the finesse fighter. That is not who Katee plays. Right. So you've got all these 3 women that have massive fight training, and they're letting them do all their fight stuff. And I was like, and they bring in Caitlin, who's amazing. Thank God. Right. makes me look amazing. But like for every single thing, and I was like, guys, can I do something?
I know.
Like, you know, Mercedes flying off walls, and I'm like, I guess I'll go home. Like
This baseball batting people in the face with her gun. Yeah.
I know, but they did let me. I got to take the squibs when Bo gets shot, and so that was amazing. But there was this one scene where we're running, and running in a Mando helmet is not like the easiest thing. Like you can't see your feet. And I tripped over a stormtrooper, and I was running too. So I flew so far onto the bridge and landed on the ground, and they were like, cut. And Peyton comes over, he goes, "You okay?" I took my helmet off, and I was like, the armor works.
You're cracking up as I could tell.
I mean, I flew so far, Kristian, and I was like, no, fine. Like my boob armor, like really, my ribs are fine.
Yeah, that spin in the thing worked. They designed it perfectly for you. It didn't.
Great. It fits like a glove.
Yeah, well, I mean, that episode in general was one of the most satisfying, I'm going to say episodes, just pieces of Star Wars in general. And I know that you've been asked this, but I saved it for this to even listen to anything you said about it with the Luke Skywalker reveal, because I had to watch it. I had to watch it on my computer because I was reviewing it and the TV wasn't available. It was a thing, Katie. It was a thing. So I had my computer and I'm watching it. And as I'm watching, I'm sipping my coffee and the X-Wing comes in. I go, no. I said, they're doing it. They're doing it. And I knew it from the second the X-Wing was coming in. I was like, they're doing it. And I just kind of freaked out like everybody else, every other reaction that you saw. But so you guys knew or didn't know right away what was the reveal like for you?
I didn't know until I saw it with you guys.
Really? Well, who did you think it was?
I didn't know. It was.
Come on.
No. I mean.
Who'd they tell you it was?
They didn't tell us. There was
with a lightsaber?
There was an actor there with dots on his face. But you put it together. I mean, kind of. But at the same time, I thought to myself, oh, they would have let us know that. Like, you know, they said, who did they say it was? I think Robin knew who they said it was, but it was a complete red herring. Okay, they lied to you. And so we didn't know. I knew it was a Jedi. I knew it was an X-Wing. So you start to put things together, but you don't know. Right. And yeah. So, when that happens, and then the other question I have, and maybe this could be the same question about where the other Mandalorian was, but so at the end of the episode, when Giancarlo Esposito, by the way, that guy is just something else. And watching him and you go, and it was very surreal to me, not because of our friendship, but because of the Battlestar Galactica connection, which was one of my favorite shows, the Breaking Bad connection, which was one of my favorite shows. Watching that happen was really cool. But the conversation is all about the Darksaber, and then there's this thing about you have to win it off the person in combat. However, in Rebels, Sabine Wren gives the saber. Was that explained to you at all, or is that something you can't talk about right now? It was something that wasn't explained to me. It's something that we know that we need to talk to. It's one of those things. But it's one of those things that it's just not for me to know right now. And it's, you know, I'm sure that Dave and John 100% know. Absolutely. And it's just one of those things, you know. And so I'm sitting here just like you guys, trying to figure it out, going, but. And so you never know, right? And that's what I love about being part of this, is that growing up watching the movies, being a fan of not only, you know, this world, but sci-fi as just a genre in general. I love not knowing some stuff because I can sit and I can watch it just like you guys, and it's absolutely amazing. And it, you know, takes me back to being a little kid, and I was crying when Luke Skywalker showed up, like literally crying. I was like, this is amazing. It's amazing. It was a great moment. It was really special, to be honest, the way that it tied in from Return of the Jedi to that, and the way that they're looping everything in and tying together the galaxy, if you will. But when the other thing I was going to ask you, know, with the shows that were announced at Disney, the Ahsoka show, the New Republic show that I guess they're doing, the Rangers show, all these other shows, is it the same thing? Was there any talk about that on set, or was it the same type of thing you found out about it when everybody else did? No, yeah, I did. I mean, I really did. I think it's one of those things where, I was only in 2 episodes. It's not like I was there every day, and so I found out when everyone else found out. And I'm so excited. I mean, I love what Disney's doing. I love it. I love what they're doing with Star Wars, what they're doing with Marvel, what they're seemingly doing with Marvel. And they've sort of Marvel seems to have figured it out.
Yeah.
And that's great,
Well, talk to me about that though. When it comes to the being, I think another thing, especially for an actress or an actor, when you're in the when you get a job like this, and not only is it Star Wars and you're happy about it, and you get to work with great people like Filoni and Favreau and just all these people, Pedro Pascal, that you get to work with, but then you're in this family now, and you get this reaction. And that's what I want to ask you about first. Was tell me about the reaction the day of the episode. Was it what you thought it was going to be? Was it crazier? Like, what was from the fan base? Were you nervous at all of how they were going to react? Because Star Wars fans are weird, man. They can either love you and put you on a pedestal, or they can get nasty. So were you nervous about that at all going into this episode?
Yeah. So I was up in Canada filming, and my fiance's, so my future mother-in-law was there, and we had like the whole thing planned out, and it was a Friday, and when I'm filming, that's my cheat day. So we were planning out what we're going to have for dinner. My bottle of wine was ready, and I did some interviews in the morning. And this has only happened to me a couple times in my life, actually, and usually from sporting events. So never this. But I after my second interview, I went over to Robin and because I didn't watch it yet, and he was like, "Do you want to watch it?" And I was like, "I can't watch it." And I was physically cold. I was like shivering as if I was out in the snow.
Wow.
And because I had so much adrenaline and so many nerves bottled up that I was like, I don't know. I literally, I'm freaking out. I'm so cold right now. I don't know what to do. And so it was like 3:00, and I had a glass of wine, and I went and I got in a warm bath, and I just like sat there, and he came home with his mom, and I was sitting in the bathtub, and he said that I looked up at him like a 5-year-old child that was like, why am I here? I literally had the wine, and I like looked at him and was like, just in the bathtub.
Yeah.
Just like the water was getting cold. I'd been in it for so long. I was in shock.
Yeah.
I was just in shock. It was so weird. And then we waited a couple hours. I had a couple glasses of wine, and then we watched the episode.
And did you love it? You're critical on yourself, aren't you?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Yes and no. I don't like to watch myself. I waited 20 years to watch Halloween Resurrection. Like, I don't, this was different. I had to watch it because I had to. Number one, I'm a fan of Star Wars, so I had to. But I also had to watch it because I needed to be able to know if I'd let the fans down. And I didn't. I had to see it. And because I was terrified.
Well, and then you saw that you clearly did not let the fans down, especially with the reaction when I'm getting tweets about how wonderful it is and all this stuff to let you know. I'm like, this was special. You could tell it was. And then I knew it, and I said it, and I made sure that I didn't really know. You didn't tell me anything of that. People were, what is she going to return? Is she going to be back this season? And I said, yeah, it makes sense that she would be back this season because they're going to have that big moment of teaming up because they've left it open. Now, this is not, I just talked to you as a friend. You don't have and you probably don't know anything. I'm going to tell you what I think is going to happen.
Because I don't know.
This is what I think is going to happen.
I don't know anything. I don't know anything. It's so funny about sitting here doing this, and everyone's like, you're talking to Kristian. I was like, guys, I don't have any spoilers.
So that's why I'm going to tell you. I would talk to you if you weren't on this show. I would tell you this is what I think is going to happen.
Go for it.
I believe that Bo Katan, and now that Din is back and he's got that saber, they're going to go try to recapture Mandalorian. That's what Mandalorian season 3 is going to be all about. Grogu's off doing his thing with Luke. And now it's all about trying to recapture. They've made it very clear a couple different times. If you pay attention to Favreau and Filoni's writing, they keep dropping hints, and they say, "Okay, you better not talk about Mandalore the wrong way because she'll stare. Look at the way she talked. She bitched Boba Fett. She bitched Boba Fett. Like, and in the middle, and how great was that to bitch Boba Fett? By the way,
It was such a cool moment for me.
Sure it was.
Mary's amazing. Like, like he's amazing. So yeah.
So anyway, watching all that go down, I just believe that to me makes the most sense, because people were saying, the question was always, anytime I would talk about Star Wars, and it was like, well, you can't do this show without Grogu, right? I'm like, of course you can. You watched the first episode before you even knew Grogu was in it. It was called The Mandalorian. He's not even in it. He's at the very end of the show, but he became so beloved that everyone wanted to watch the show. So
he's so cute, though.
Yeah. He's great. He's great, and he's a great character. But I think that they've made the character of Din very like, that's what they've done very well in order to spin off Star Wars here. They made him very interesting. The Rangers show is definitely going to be Cara Dune showing up in that show. Ahsoka's going to have her own show now with Filoni. You have this the Acolyte show, and all these things that they're doing now. They're setting these things up very well. So are you in for any other episodes yet, or that's just another thing? If so, don't ask. Move on to the next thing.
No, I have no idea.
Perfect. All right. So,
I have no idea.
You have no idea. Okay. And when it's then what about with the Bill Burr thing? Have you heard he was talking to Jimmy Fallon, and they talked to him about because people, as I mentioned with Star Wars fans, they talk about, well, you have a Boston accent in space. He's like, oh, you can't have Boston accent in space. How about the fact they talk English? No one's questioning that. They talk English, and C-3PO has a British accent. Nobody cares about that. Right. But did you get to meet him at all when you were
No.
Yeah, because different episodes, right?
Yeah. No. I know, it's so funny too, because it's one of those things where it's like, we don't know how Mandalorians age.
Right.
They're not human.
That's right, and that's what I mean. People, she really ages well, because you're like, Bo Katan should be like 60. I was like, it's space lore, guys. You don't know. That's true. You don't know about Mandalore. You don't know the way that time works on Mandalore.
Like they could have like UV rays inside their helmets that are just making them young.
Yeah. See, there you go. There's always an excuse. But and then conversations with Filoni, because I know that working with who did you interact with more, or were they both kind of equal on both your episodes? I know that obviously Bryce and then Peyton for as far as directing, but were both the guys on set?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're there. It's such a beautiful team, and it's such a beautiful team feeling that there's no ego involved in any of this. It's just everyone is making a great show, and there's a team, and it was. I learned so much from Bryce, and I so much from. I mean, Dave and I could sit and talk about Star Wars forever.
Yeah.
And I mean, working with John was like, it blows my mind. It absolutely blows my mind. And Peyton was amazing. I'd never met Peyton. I do think I auditioned for Ant-Man and Wasp though at some point, one of the characters. But and Peyton was amazing, absolutely amazing. And there was this one moment that my character has a lot of sci-fi talk. Like there are mouthfuls and sentences that no person should ever have to say in any order that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And there was this one moment where I was like really tired, and it was the plan, when she's putting together the plan and she's talking about how we're going to do this and we're going to do that. Bo was going to do this and blah, 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 blah. And my tongue was getting tied and I was so sleepy. And so Mercedes gives me a Bang. Like, do you know what these Bang energy drinks are? Oh my Christ on a cracker. So they're literally, I don't even know what it is. It's supposed to help cognitive function, but it's also caffeine. I don't even know what it is. The kids love it. So Mercedes is like, and I saw her one day go from like dead on the floor to like, holy Hannah, she's got so much energy. So I was like, okay, well, maybe just give me a little bit. Like, give me a little bit. And so I took like a Dixie cup and I had like 10 sips of this stuff. Oh my God, I was talking so fast that Peyton comes over and he was like, and it was so clear and my volume and diction was like spot on. And he was like, oh my God.
Nailed it.
So fast. It was so fast. And so then he's like, maybe slow it down this next time. So I slowed it down, and then he comes back over and he goes, speed it up even more this time. And I was like, awesome. And I had so much caffeine, but I was like, I'm going to crash so hard.
It's pretty funny though. I mean, and you got it done. And well, when you say, it's funny when you say that about how much sci-fi talk is in it, it reminds me of the famous Harrison Ford quote where he goes, "You can write this shit, you can't say it." Yeah, when he's talking to George Lucas. But yeah. And speaking of Bryce Dallas Howard, by the way, I think that what she did in your episode, oh my God. I mean, you talk about learning the stuff that she paid homage to her dad, obviously, with Apollo 13 and things that she did inside of that episode. She really impressed me, not only with her directing from the first season, but listening to her in that gallery series. And you can tell how much fun she has doing this stuff. And that's all I've ever wanted for people to do when they're doing Star Wars is you can always say every single time that you get the same standard kind of canned answer from me. Oh, it's Star Wars. It shaped my childhood. It shaped, it was the reason I wanted to start making movies. But you can really tell who's a fan of this stuff by the way they talk about it and this stuff. And she just seems like a legit fan.
She is.
Yeah.
She legitimately is. And she's also happy.
Yeah.
Oh, it's infectious. She's just like, it's like, she's like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory rolled up in like the most beautiful, like little, like, I mean, she's gorgeous. She's just amazing human being. She's amazing. But what is hard to do is to pay homage and like, and stay in the lane of what something is, but also make it your own and make it better.
Right.
And her episode, I remember watching reactions to it and people being blown away that Bryce Dallas Howard directed that episode because it was amazing. Yeah. It was amazing. She is, not only is she great with action and the big action sequences, she is an actor's director because of who she is, obviously. But she can give direction like nobody's business, and it's really important. It's really important, especially important when you have someone like, Mercedes, who's never been, this was like a big thing for her. And you want someone that's going to help take the intimidation factor down and help you be the best that you can be and teach you at the same time. And she's amazing. Yeah.
And it's funny you say that because that's exactly what I can only imagine. And God, you guys had so many great tools when you have Filoni, Favreau, Bryce Dallas Howard, all on set. So you're on set there and you can then say, okay, wait, I have a question about the character that, well, I know Filoni can help me with this. I have something about the actual performance of it. Favreau or Bryce Dallas Howard can help me with this. So those tools there, that's gotta be just refreshing being on the set.
It's amazing. I mean, it really is a dream come true. I loved, speaking of Filoni, watching his episode that he directed.
Yeah.
It played like this. As soon as you saw it and it was this big wide frame, you were like, I know what he's doing.
Yeah.
And he was, sort of taking inspiration from the old samurai films. And you saw that and it was stunning. It takes a really, really courageous director to play wides.
Yeah, and and you can tell that, especially, I'm glad you brought that episode up because when you see all the references to original Star Wars with Samurai and how he was able to play that, and knowing that this was a guy who sat in the room with George Lucas like every day on Clone Wars and working with him and taking those philosophies of what Star Wars really is, and you saw that in his episode for sure. But I know you were always, we talk about it all the time back in the day of how much you were a fan of Star Wars, but do you become way more of a fan now that you're in it? Because sometimes it could be the opposite. Sometimes it could be, yeah, I'm in it now and I'm in Star Wars and I don't watch it as much. I mean, to be honest, speaking of wrestling, I was a big wrestling fan for years. I wrote for the company and I didn't watch as much anymore. So how do you feel now being involved? Did you find yourself watching more of the movies, more of the stuff, or are you just like, okay, I'm in it and I'm going to learn my stuff and we'll take it kind of as it comes?
I'm more of a fan now. I have to be. Right. I think for me, and there's many different ways to interact with fans, and there's many different ways to sort of come about, doing this. But for me, I chose to love it more, learn it more. You know, I don't want to let the fans down. This is such a huge opportunity, not only for me, but the fact that a voice actor got to transition and play in live action was huge as well. And I didn't want to let them down. I didn't want, you know, Kathleen Kennedy to be like, what was I thinking? You know, like there was just a lot of pressure, but I wanted to do it right. And that meant studying and taking it seriously.
Yeah. And you can tell. And then after the positive response of the first episode, or the third episode, and then the finale, do you get phone calls from whether it be Kathleen Kennedy or Favreau or Filoni and or anybody kind of talking about the job that you did, and not just a kind of a blow you and we know we've been in those conversations where it's A, someone blowing smoke up your ass, or B, you really feel, no, I this is legit. I feel the compliment. I feel that I can understand what they're saying. I did myself proud. I did them proud. Do you get those kind of conversations?
Dave and I text.
Yeah.
You know? And so I got that stuff from him. But truthfully, I think for myself, I remember being there on the day and having conversations with John on the day and feeling how proud he was in the moment.
Yeah.
And then when I saw it, going back and being like, oh, okay. Like now I actually believe what he said to me in the moment. At the time, I was like, whatever.
Did you see all the after that episode came out, and how many different, like even 2 days ago they released that scene when Luke comes in, and now they put it to I Need a Hero. Did you see this?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Like all the different ones that are coming out, like when that popped off. I mean, this show, and they just announced the show was like the biggest show in the ratings right now. You're like in one of the top rated shows on television, so that's got to be pretty incredible for you right now.
It is. I'm just, I mean, you know this, you knew me long time ago, and it's, I am still blown away that I get to do this for a career. It still blows my mind. You know, it really does. And I'm so blessed, and so I'm still in shock by this whole thing, to be honest.
Well, so tell me a little bit more about what you got. I know that your second season of your Netflix show, is that what's going on with that?
So Another Life, we're in the mix right now. So Another Life will start. I mean, if I was a betting person, I'd say summer. But that, you know, what I love about Another Life is being an EP on that and actually having some ownership over that, in the sense that, you know, I have a vested interest in this show succeeding because, you know, being one of the producers, and, you know, we shot through COVID and it was not easy. And we made it through when we finished filming, and that was something that was really important for us to do that. We were, you know, touted as the safest show in Vancouver. Modeling off of our show, because we worked really hard to make sure that we were not only safe, but that people felt safe, you know?
Yeah.
So that show's coming out, you know, probably summer. And then other than that, I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do next. Because I don't know. I have no idea, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I feel, you know, fingers crossed, like everyone else, hopeful that we're in the home stretch, hopefully. And that, you know, we can get, once the vaccines and everything start to maneuver in the world, can get back to normal. If that, it seems so foreign to even say that today, but if it does, and I know that this is going to be one of those things on our next interview. It's gonna be like, well, you know, there's certain things I couldn't say during that interview. So, but I do.
Hey, I don't know anything.
You know, I like to do these predictions every time we do, because a lot of the times I feel like I can be good luck here too, because I also feel that you not only are you going to be in season 3 of this show, I think that you absolutely should show up in this Boba Fett series that they're doing, and if not that, you should absolutely show off in one of these spin-off series. And that's the beauty of being able to connect all this stuff inside of this Avengers, the MCU type of style that it looks like Star Wars is going to get into. So anyway,
as long as she's not dead, I don't know. I have no idea.
No chance. They're not. And I think that moment, and before I let you go here too, because we did talk about the last time that we spoke, you had mentioned when you met Gina on Carano on, you guys are supposed to go back and forth. You always thought you were competing with her, and then you met at the Saturn Awards, and it was Jon Favreau that had introduced you guys. But when you finally met and did a scene together, because you talk about someone else that really can beat the hell out of people, here she is. So did you guys got along pretty well on set as well, also?
100%. Yeah, Gina's lovely. You know, we weren't on set together a ton, to be honest. But she's great, and it's such a funny moment, and I don't think people don't understand the industry when they don't understand what I was talking about, because there was some guy on Twitter that was like, the fact that Katee Sackhoff thinks that she's, you know, that Gina was competition is such an egotistical blah, 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 blah.
No, I didn't take it like that. Isn't it funny how we pay attention to that one idiot as opposed to like all the other? Yeah. And there's like all the positivity that came off that stuff too. It's so weird.
Yeah, no. So, you know, it's anyone who would say that isn't in the industry.
Right.
You know, you don't understand. So any time you have two women that play similar characters, you're competition.
Right.
Like, especially if you're with the same agency, especially if you're the same age, especially if you know what I mean.
Yes.
All of these things, and so, you know, I built this up in my head that, you know, this persona that she like would kill me. And it was like, she's such a girly girl. I love it. She's so pretty.
Well, look, this is very exciting for me. This is a good friend of mine who is now in live action in Star Wars. I always want to be careful that you've been in Star Wars for a long time. But the last thing I'll ask you, when you filmed this, you filmed Mandalorian though before COVID went down, right?
Yeah.
So you were holding on to this for a while, man.
Yeah. No, because I was already up filming Another Life by February.
Okay. I guess that's the one positive. That's a positive thing where, because your fiance is such a big Star Wars fan that you don't really have to keep it too quiet, where you're telling him you can geek out about it. You're going over your stuff with him. He also can help out with the well, you know, she did this, she did that. So how much was he a help in all of the prep?
Oh my God. Like, he's a help in everything. Like, I'm watching him outside right now. Like, he's planting plants. Like, he's literally like the saint that was given to me by the gods. But it was so funny because we would talk about it. Like, we would want to talk about it when I was filming, and we couldn't. And so we had to have a code word out in public, because tables are so close together at restaurants in Los Angeles that you can't just like talk about the Mandalorian. Right. So we called it, and so did my agent and my manager. Everyone called it The Wedding. And what were you wearing for the wedding? And how was, you know, rehearsal for the wedding? And how was the priest for the wedding? And
at the wedding, when the two of them are going to fight, right? And then he'll throw the one on the floor.
But we talked about the wedding for forever. And that's sort of, it was so funny. I even think at one point we were talking about the wedding, and someone next to us goes, "When are you getting married?"
Oh, it's so funny. That's great. That's great. Well, good. I'm glad. I'm super happy for you. I cannot wait to see what happens with season 3. I know that there's like a lot of confusion with it. As I know that Boba Fett comes out the end of this year, and then we don't know about Mandalorian season 3 yet. So as soon as we find that out, either way, I am so happy for you. I am so excited that this went over the way that it did. You deserve it. And again, congratulations on the engagement. And soon, once this is all over, we'll be able to hang out and talk about this stuff in person.
I know, it's such an interesting thing. Like, you know, sort of, it's just such a strange time. It's such a strange time.
It really is. Yeah.
I miss hugs. I miss my parents' hugs. We've got ourselves on the list for vaccines when they become available. And so it's just sort of one of those things where, you know, I just want my mom and dad to have the vaccine. That's all I want, is they're 73 years old. And because it's a state by state thing, Oregon is not vaccinating 73-year-olds yet, which is just mind boggling to me that, you know.
I think it's going to be a thing though. I think it's going to start. I think things are going to change so rapid over the next like month or two. I think it's going to change. But either way, ladies and gentlemen, Katee Sackhoff, Bo Katan. Make sure if you haven't checked out Mandalorian season 2, well, we just spoiled a whole bunch of stuff for you, so that'd be stupid. But
you should put before this spoilers, please.
You don't figure that out. But
I don't want some poor fan to be like, you ruined everything. I would hate to be that person.
I know, but at that point, it's like, come on, man, figure it out. And you guys also, if you haven't checked out Another Life, make sure you do that on Netflix, but also go back and listen to Katee as Bo Katan in both Clone Wars, Rebels. Go and check that out, because that's you know what's so funny, I was going to ask you, did you know that they brought Bo Katan back in the end of Clone Wars? Like, yeah, of course she knows, idiot, she voiced the character. How much I just look at the character.
It's so funny. I tell people all the time that if you love this and if you love Mandalorian, go back, watch Clone Wars, watch Rebels. Like it makes the viewing of Mandalorian, you feel like it's family when you're watching it.
You feel rewarded.
Yeah.
And
it really is. And it's, you know, and it was a dream come true for me to play Bo from the beginning, because it was the only thing my nephews could watch that I had done, because they were so young. And that's the one. I mean, granted, I joked that I would play a rock in Star Wars from the beginning of my career, but that was one of the main reasons I took the voice job, was because I wanted my nephews to be able to watch something. So they're huge fans. They're freaking out.
And well, you should thank your nephews, because the reason you took that job is the reason also you did such a phenomenal job. They brought you in to do the live action version of it. The fact that you didn't have to audition and do any of that, like, no. And that was that. Sorry, I keep saying the last thing, but as I remember, Bryce Dallas Howard. Have you watched the gallery thing from this year yet?
Haven't. No, we've been moving into a new house. We literally haven't stopped doing anything since.
You should watch it, because she says really, really nice things about you. She says, I mean, she talks about how they knew right away that it was you, and just how strong of a person you are in general, and how it brings in to Bo Katan that I mean, it was really nice to hear the kind words that she had, and it was accurate to everything she was saying for you as a person, but in general for the character. So it was you should check it out when you have an opportunity.
Yeah, no, I should. I need to. It was, you know, it was truly a collaboration on that, just because I remember my first scene and being there with Bryce and John, and sort of having this moment. And I've said this in other interviews, where I prepared because I've played the character for years. So I didn't feel like I had to prepare, you know what I mean? And I showed up on the day, and I realized that I never questioned how Bo Katan walked or moved. Like, it never occurred to me that I hadn't played this character before. And I was like, holy crap, what do I do now? And we had to search for it. Bryce and Dave and John and I had to search for it. And she truly made me understand. I felt so horrible. I was like, I felt so out of my element. I was like, what do I do? And she said, it's fine. You're just like, you're Pinocchio right now. You know, it's like you've been a wooden boy, and all of a sudden you're a real boy now, and you just got to figure out how to walk and talk. You're fine. And as soon as she said that, I was like, oh my God, that's exactly, I've been wooden for 10 years. I just have to add life to her.
Yeah.
You know? And then it became fun and not daunting.
Well, you did it, and you did it times 100. So congratulations once again. It's always awesome to see you and talk to you. So we'll talk again. And I can't wait to see what happens next with Bo and with you. So let's talk very, very soon. But ladies and gentlemen, Katee Sackhoff, give her a follow there at Katee Sackhoff, and go check out everything that she's doing. And we will see you tomorrow. Peace out.